there. I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. Alrighty. Tonight we're going live for Thursday, January 1st, 2024. Once again, like I said the other night, I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and a happy, healthy new year. We're live tonight on Rumble as well as YouTube. I will say, apparently, I may have said or done something along the way that offended the YouTube gurus. I noticed that my YouTube numbers are dropping. Actually, video views are dropping. I may be getting a little bit suppressed in the algorithm. I'm not sure, but that's okay because we are live on Rumble and we make sure that all of our stuff stays on the Rumble channel. Why? Because after all, Rumble is the home of free speech and we've got to love it there. So if you want to look back at any of our old shows, you can check. We actually have our full video library published on Rumble, and we're going to keep it there. And again, it's kind of funny watching numbers of watches and numbers of views dropping repeatedly on YouTube over time. Gee, kind of funny about that. Apparently, people are unwatching some of our videos. Don't you just hate it when that happens? Beyond that, again, please remember to like, share this out. Share it out on YouTube. We're trying to get our followers up. Share it out on Rumble. We have hit 251 followers, which is absolutely fantastic. I don't know who all we've got in the chat today or who all we've got watching tonight, but hopefully we'll be able to give out some really cool information and have a little fun as we do it. Tonight is definitely going to be a change of pace from some of our incident report or some of our harder case streams. Tonight is actually going to be kind of about buying your first gun, and it's a lot of this comes from an experience I had over the holiday. For those of y'all who don't know that well, I used to live in North Carolina, up around the western part of the state, around Asheville, Hendersonville for some time. Actually went to school up at Hayward Regional Medical Center, did my paramedic stuff there, and so I had a pretty good grip on the area. Also, worked for a while driving around in a pretty white car with a great big gold badge on the side of it, carrying a gun, doing all sorts of fun stuff up in Asheville many years ago. That was my first time I ever carried a gun on a day-to-day basis. Bought my first gun in Asheville, bought my second, third, and a few other guns in Asheville, but that's beside the point. I was recently up there over the holidays, and I had a little bit of time to kill. And by dumb luck, I ended up waiting for someone to meet me, and we were supposed to meet up outside a big box, outdoorsy kind of store. I'm not going to name names because it's not important. It really isn't. I will say that it was not a firearms specialty store, although they had quite a bit of firearms gear there, quite a few guns there to buy, reloading supplies, long guns, short guns, lowers, mods, full set of tools there. And so since I had some time to kill and I was in the area, I figured, what the hell? I was going to go inside and check out what they had, see what was new in the gun cabinet, see if they had anything that I just felt that I had to have. Well, okay. So I go inside to wander around. And because I'm killing time, I'm not really in a hurry. And I happen to wander up past the handgun area. And they've got a long glass case with lots and lots and lots of pretty pew-pews in there. And as I was standing there, I overheard a conversation. And the conversation was about 10 feet away, but I sort of edged up a little bit closer, acting like I was looking, but overhearing. And there were 3 people involved. And one of them was in the process of buying their first gun. And I'll get a little bit more detail on these people as we go. By the time I left, well, I'll be honest with you, I was having a really bad day. It wasn't anything that was really wrong, but I watched something happen that kind of bothered me, I guess personally, professionally, whatever you want to say, because this person was buying their first pew-pew, and I remember buying my first one, and, again, up there, killing time. It was interesting to watch the interaction between the 3 people involved. Now, one of the people involved was the gentleman behind the counter. He seemed very, very knowledgeable. Definitely knowledgeable about the firearms, definitely knowledgeable about everything they had in their case. Couldn't really say what else he could get, but again, fairly knowledgeable, doing a decent job of what he was there to do. The person buying the first firearm was a female, I'd guess to be, mid to late 40s. Um, Attractive enough. I mean, I wasn't really looking to see if she was hot or not. She wasn't, wasn't really even in that mindset, but well dressed, looked to be intelligent, professional looking, down vest, turtleneck sweater, jeans, appeared to be like ladies' dress boots on. Okay. And gentlemen with her seemed to be quite knowledgeable about firearms. Now, you might think husband. Well, I overheard the man say to the guy behind the counter that he was actually there helping her get her first firearm because she and her husband had split up. And he was like, I think he said brother. I couldn't tell his brother or brother in law. I couldn't quite get that much. And again, I was sort of a distance away. And she was looking to get her first firearm. Well, he had a great conversation going, great rapport going with the gentleman behind the counter, who, like I said, was quite knowledgeable. Now, she was looking to get her first firearm for home defense, especially now with her husband gone. She's living on her own, although her kids are there sometimes, just really not that, comfortable with guns, has never had a gun before. And so it's like, okay, let's see here. Sleazy, first gun should be an AK-50. I'm not against it, but I think it might be a bit much for her. But, then again, if she prays to AK Jesus, maybe she could handle an AK-50. Now, the fun part of this is watching her try out the various guns. He is very much controlling the conversation. She was getting one word in for every 20 to 25 of his words. The guy behind the counter was very responsive to what his questions were. And little by little, and I moved from where I was and I sort of wandered over to the other side looking at stuff. And I was kind of even going to look at what was in the case that they were looking at. I wasn't really necessarily trying to eavesdrop, but as someone who's been in the firearms business, who's been behind the counter, who has dealt with new firearms buyers, who has trained brand new shooters, who's taken people out for their first trip to the range, watching this interaction was the most fascinating people watching of all to me. I watched her shut down. I watched her get to the point that she couldn't have given a damn what she went home with. She was going through the motions. She was not even interested anymore. She was at total information overload. And on the other side of that, the gentleman behind the counter, I mean, they got into the fact of, Canik is not like a big Smith & Wesson or well-known brand, but Canik is Turkish manufacturer and this, that, and the other, and how things are different imported. And I was like, okay, again, incredibly knowledgeable, giving great facts and information about this stuff, but not where she needed to be. He got so sucked into the alpha male who was controlling it that he was not paying attention much to the end user of the gun. And I don't think it was like a straw purchase or anything. I think it was a well-meaning family member who was trying to help. And so it got to the point that, this guy was telling this other guy everything about the gun. So you had two people involved, but yet the end user sort of, and I felt so bad for this lady. Now, I didn't have any of my range gear with me, didn't have any of my stuff with me. I was up there, actually, like I said, meeting a friend, and just all I could think was I wanted to walk over, and I was trying to figure at one point what the diplomatic way to do it was, to walk over and say, honey, come here, let's talk. You're the one getting the gun. Let them talk. Let's start talking over here. The gentleman behind the counter was very knowledgeable. He told her, if you're looking for something, 9mm would be definitely, the pretty much the lowest defensive caliber you want to go with. You don't want anything too big. And she was a small, slender little thing and, not particularly big. And so it got to the point that he's pulling multiple guns out of the case at the same time, and he's very dutifully checking the slide, racking the slide, make sure it's clear, and locking the slide open and handing her this, saying, "How does that feel? How does this feel? How does that feel?" Now, she knew nothing about firearms. She had stated that she had never shot a gun in her life. So she's handed this firearm with no mag in it, of course, slide locked open, and she's, yeah, that feels good, I guess. Oh, yeah, that feels better. Oh, that feels good. And she handled maybe five within a 10-minute period tops, probably less. And she's trying to decide which one feels best. Now, there's no mag in it, no ammunition in it, so the weight is totally different than what it would be in real life. The slide is locked open, so the center of gravity is shifted way off where it's going to be. The price tags and stuff are still hanging from it with the little, you know, and she, to tell you how green she was, and I'm not faulting her at all. Please understand, I felt bad for her. I felt bad that she was literally getting drugged through this experience as if she was getting drugged behind a truck down a gravel road. She was not having a good time. This was not a positive day for this lady. She was, at meltdown level. I'm watching this go on, and, a couple of times she would let her index finger slip like into the trigger guard because I guess that's how I'm supposed to hold this thing that I was just handed. And she was like, "Yeah, that feels good, I guess." And the guy behind the counter, very gently, and I'll give him a lot of credit. And again, I'm not throwing rocks at him. Very gently, and said, corrected that no, you want to have your finger up along the slide. You know, this went on. Now, this went on for a good 30 minutes total time. Now, where do we go with this? What's the point of this? Like I said, as an instructor, as an educator, as a trainer, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? Now, I will say the most negative thing of all, she did end up purchasing a firearm. I'm not sure exactly what she got, but she did end up purchasing a firearm. Um, that firearm she purchased, I don't know which one it was. I wasn't able to pay that much attention. It was something, possibly a Taurus, possibly a Canic. It was over in that area. They had looked at a bunch of them, and I think at that point she was going to say yes to anything to get the hell out of there, is very much how I was reading her body language. There was no enthusiasm whatsoever toward this purchase, and her enthusiasm had waned from where it was when I first noticed. And so that's where I'm really, starting to feel bad for her. Now, I remember buying my first gun. Now, I bought my first gun at a great little place. If you're ever up around Asheville, it's in South Asheville. It's off Sweeten Creek Road. It's called On Target. It's run by Jeff and Dawn Stucker. Absolutely love them to death. And, well, ended up going over there a little bit later that day just because, well, I had to for like my own mental health at that point. But anyway, how many times do we see this happen? Now, there's three people there. The guy behind the counter, he was answering all the man's questions, but we knew they were getting the gun for her. He could have tried, possibly diplomatically, to sort of adjust back to her a little bit. If you work, let's start with behind the counter people. If you work behind the counter and you're sitting there and someone comes in and, oh, this guy is here to help his sister or sister-in-law get a gun, how about we start talking to her first and focus on her? I understand the man had a lot of questions, and I'm not saying don't answer his questions, but try to direct the conversation back to her needs, her wants, her, desires. Yeah, I agree, Sleazy. It is Trashville now. There's a few cool places up there. Like I said, I'll go by Jeff and Dawn's anytime. I'll definitely go up there. And Minnie, I don't know if it was really misogyny or that the guy was too busy dominating the conversation and the counter rep just got sucked into it. But the interesting part of the whole thing was, you know, He wasn't really focusing on what her needs were. Now, they wanted something that felt comfortable. Now, how do we know if it's going to feel comfortable if no one's ever showed her a grip on a gun? You're behind the counter. Once you realize that she's picking this thing up, holding it like it's a computer joystick, and she's got a fat finger, and wobbling all over the trigger, why don't you stop and say, tell you what, let me show you a couple things here. We'll get a grip. Now, this is how you want to grip it. You'll grip it high up on the back strap. You'll put this here, put this in here. Now, how does that feel? Because quite frankly, when she's holding it like this, if it feels good or not, well, guess what? You know, very much so. Two dudes with similar just stuck in their tism. Yeah. And again, I can't necessarily say the guy was doing wrong because he had two customers. But the thing is, if he had pulled back a little bit and focused on become an educator, sit there and for 5 minutes, you've got an incredible knowledge base. You work with guns. You work in a gun store. You can tell me all about the Canik and the Turkish and the import and everything else. Great. You've got this person who's looking at purchasing this from you. Be the resource that she needs you to be. Be the person. Obviously, you realize the guy with her is so busy trying to monopolize the conversation. Shut him down for a minute. Say, hold on. Let me show you how to really hold this. This is how you do this. This is what this is. One of the discussions I caught them having was about a safety. This one does have a safety. This one doesn't have a safety. And she's like, well, if it doesn't have a safety, is it just going to go off? Okay. Now, he did explain that no, it won't just go off without a safety. And he even went to the point of explaining to her that some safeties, some of them, are better than others as far as easier to miss or easier to hit. And the last thing you want is something, if it does have a safety, if it's a very small, easy to miss safety, especially if you don't practice with it a lot. You don't want to expect to bang and get a click because you missed the safety or you scraped it on the way down. He did do that. He did do some teaching. But I say this to everybody who works behind the counter in that gun store. If you've got the person in front of you, this is her first gun, be the instructor, be the teacher for a minute. I know the company pays you to sell guns, but you know what? If you can be the resource and the teacher that she needs at that moment in her life, your store will get her business again. If you be the person and say, look, I know there's a lot going on, and I know you see a whole lot here. Let's start with the basics. Let's start with one or two. These are both decent brands. Here's how you hold them. Now, this one has a safety. This one doesn't. Here's how that works. Now, if you're going to get something with a safety, make sure it's, easy to make sure you hit it. You don't want something with an easily missed safety. There's so much information. I mean, honestly, unfortunately, they didn't get into anything with a decocker because I don't think she would have known what a decocker was or what a cocker was, or she might have thought a decocker was going to help the guy with her transition for all I know. I don't get it. But, they, totally took over. She was shut out. Now, that store does not have a range on site. A lot of stores do have a range on site. If you're in a gun store that has a range on site, I know Palmetto State has a range on site. Academy doesn't. I know that like a lot of the local ranges, the mom and pop ranges. Folks, if you're looking for your first gun and you want a place that's more focused on quality guns and customer service, look, I'm not against Academy. I bought guns at Academy. I bought ammo at Academy. I go in, I kind of know what I need to get and what I want to get, and I'm going to be pretty cool, and I don't really need the person behind the counter to be a knowledgeable firearms expert. And for all you know, this person was selling resistance bands and leggings a week ago. So, okay. But if you need quality customer service and quality help, you go to the mom and pop store that's only guns. Because guess what? They're in there, and everybody in there is a gun person, a gun guy, a gun girl, whatever the case may be. And you will find the people at these smaller mom and pop ranges, even if you pay a little bit more for your first purchase, the service and education and knowledge base you get with it will be, 10 times that. Now, to the people behind the counter, realize that you're this person's first venture into the gun community. You got to be a little bit of a teacher. It's like Minnie posted up in the chat here. She's going to get that thing home and never take it out of the box. If you've got a place that's got a range. Now, briefly, I did work behind a counter of a gun store. When someone come in and they didn't know nothing about nothing, one of the first things we did is we'd walk them over to the rental gun counter, and we'd let them play with and tinker with a bunch of the rental guns. Well, number one, because they were already like dirty and used and everything else. Didn't have to worry about cleaning fingerprints off them if they were pretty. But we'd let them play with a bunch of those, hold those, feel those, rack those, get used to all the manual of arms of a bunch of those, and then say, do you want to take one of those in there with one of us? And we would walk in there with them and let them, put 10 rounds through it. We do had boxes of like 50 rounds, but we'd get, 10 rounds out of a bag from under the counter, and we'd go in there and we'd let them fire 10 rounds with it. How did that feel? Good, bad, too much for you, enough for you? At least get some idea. You'd never buy your first car without taking a test drive. You'd never want to buy a pair of shoes that you had never put on. Now, if you're buying online, you can return it, whatever. You can't quite do that with the gun. She went out, and that day she bought her first gun and didn't even really take a test drive. A range would have been a much, much better place to take her. And the people at the range, especially the mom and pop stores, Jeff and Dawn up at On Target. Down here, we've got City Arsenal up on the north end of Greenville off Poinsett. Down on the south end, we've got the gun shop in Simpsonville. Any of those, if you're in the area, strongly recommend those. I know the people there. I go to those ranges, great people. And they are going to be more helpful than any big box store is ever going to be. Now, Palmetto State Armory is kind of a big box store, but it's a big box gun store. They've got a range there. They've got a whole cabinet full of practice toys and training toys and rental guns. Get in there, work with this couple of them, try 2 or 3 things and say, yes, I like how that feels. No, I don't like how that feels. Oh, that one's too heavy. Some of the nicest, smallest, cutest, most comfortable little guns in your hand are so lightweight that they're actually punishing to fire. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Ruger LCP 380. A Ruger LCP 380 is harder on my hand to fire than a Smith full-frame Shield. Why? Well, the Shield in 9mm, it's got more real estate on it. It mates up to my hand better. The Smith Bodyguard 380, I don't like. When I bought the Shield, I had gone to Palmetto State Armory. I tried several different guns, and I got the one I liked. And guess what? Your first gun, if you like it, and it feels good to shoot, and it's comfortable, and it's not punishing your hand, you're going to practice with it, and you're going to become proficient with it. Now, I'll give credit for Academy on one thing. If you buy a gun at Academy, you get a little booklet with it. It's an Academy gun booklet. It's got stuff in it like the 4 rules and safe storage stuff and a lot of stuff, get you to buy more stuff. But the thing is, they're actually providing more education, more information. I'm thinking they probably did that and put that together so that way there's sort of a standardized sales pitch, because again, you don't know that the person behind the counter wasn't hawking yoga pants an hour ago. But what if you're too intimidated to go to a range by yourself as a newbie? Well, great question. And you're the one I'll definitely talk about that with. If y'all don't know, in the Rumble chat, we have someone, she's down as Miss Minnie Mel Mel, but she is Mel. She is the living personification of Minnie Mouse. And I will say, I've been, she's one of the people I've been teaching a lot privately, and she is nice enough to come in here and ask great questions during the shows. Um, she got to go to her, first couple times to the range with me, and she got to the point that she liked it. In fact, the first time she was so hesitant, she said, "Can I bring my mommy?" And I said, "Yes, you can bring your mommy." And I took her and her mommy to the range. And funny enough, her mommy liked my AR-15, but we won't go there. Um, the thing is, if you're out there in a gun store, what do? You have someone come in who doesn't have anyone with them and they don't know. These where if you've got a range on site, be the teacher, be the coach. You'll build a relationship with that customer. You'll get the business and you'll sell things on and on and on because you will be their source. You will be their point person, point man, point guy, point girl, whatever, going forward forever. Now, if you don't have anyone to go with, look around, find an instructor. You'd be surprised. There's lots of instructors out there. If you are local to this area, I can throw my email up there. I am more than happy to take people out for their first ride to the range. And we'll go out there and we'll start with, okay, this is how you load it. This is how you unload it. This is a bullet. This is a magazine. Please don't call it a clip. Okay, things like that. Yeah, Mama Mouse wanted to learn too. And Mama Mouse went out and bought her a gun too. Mama Mouse is bad with her pistola. Anyway, but find an instructor. If you're not in the upstate South Carolina or Asheville, North Carolina area, because like I said, I've got ranges of both of them I go to, and I can teach at any of them. If you're not, reach out to me. I can contact. I'm a member of several national firearm instructor groups. I'll find you an instructor in the area because the whole experience. Now, this woman, I got the vibe, just appearance wise, that $300-400 that she spent that day was not going to break the bank and leave her, penniless and eating out of the dumpster. But on the other side of that coin, if she doesn't like this gun and she doesn't become proficient with it and doesn't practice with it and doesn't have any oomph to get better with it because she doesn't like it and it's not comfortable, someday her life might depend on that gun. And if her life depends on a gun that she doesn't really know how to use or doesn't remember how to know if it's loaded or not, or if it's chambered or not, or which thing turns off the safety because she's not proficient with it, yeah, we know how that's going to work out. But we get to the point, again, I can't necessarily fault her for not speaking up. She was getting talked over and through. The person who takes her, if you're going to take someone, you need to understand it's about them. It's not about you. When you go, let it be about them. Have fun, have a lot of fun with them and everything else. But on the other side of that coin, realize that there's only so much, that can go on at that point. Um, wow, I just got something sent to me on text, folks, and I don't quite know how to react. I'm kind of having a moment here. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. I will say that it's definitely not a bad thing. It's something I'm a little bit amazed by. Minnie has sent me I think what she wants for Christmas next year. I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I'll pull it up here in a minute on the text. Y'all see this? We got to see this. Okay, but okay. So let's get back to kind of focus. You kind of blew my mind there, man. Love you. Um, the guy behind the counter. You've got to be the instructor. Don't be the sales guy. Be the instructor, be the teacher. And I don't care if you're instructor or not. At that point, you're the subject matter knowledge base expert, and you can easily sit there and teach her how to hold it. When you hand it to her and she's doing this with it and going, I guess that works, you realize you've got a responsibility at that point to another human being to try to help her a little bit. And, if you're the guy who brought her there, and that was the one who was really, out of everyone, ticking me off the most, And he was not asking bad questions or stupid questions. He was asking good questions, but he was so in deep. And again, were we doing her a service or a disservice? I'm willing to say we did her a gross disservice, not we, but they did her a gross disservice that day. And unfortunately, when you get to that point, we sort of have a little bit of a problem there because it was a rough day. It really was because, you know, she's not going to have a good time with that. That's definitely not going to be a positive day at the office for her by any stretch of the imagination. Um, yeah, I agree. They should have been empowering her. Instead, they made her feel smaller. They dwarfed her out of that whole thing. It was harsh to watch. It really was. Now, since I brought it up, and I would feel remiss if I didn't share this, ladies and gentlemen, this is what Minnie is sending me in the middle of the show. Yes, that's right. She wants the Disney Pistola. I'm not sure who that or where that one came from. It could be a Smith. It actually looks like it might be a Smith Shield, although I can't quite tell with the logoing on it there. But yeah, she's laughing at me in the chat here. Yeah, nothing but the highest production quality around this place. Can you tell? Sleazy, can you see what that one is by any chance? What in the world is this thing? Or Minnie, can you put up in the chat what that is if that's got a brand name on it? I don't know. I'm really not sure. I'm kind of at a loss here. That one just definitely kind of blew me out of the water. But yeah, when we look at different options for your first firearm, I strongly, strongly recommend if you don't go, to a private range or someplace with a range. PSA's got a range there. Before you think of buying a car, go out and learn to drive a car. Before you think of buying your first gun, put a couple of rounds through things. If they don't have rental guns there, and ask them, say, look, I want to try several rental guns. I'm thinking of getting my first firearm. And it should be a positive thing. And I know PSA, most ranges will go through a safety briefing with you. They've got all the stuff there, eye protection, ear pro, all that stuff. And it may cost a little money and everything else. But again, you'll actually have much more idea what you're getting yourself into. Then go to the counter and look at buying something. Again, you never buy a new car without having driven one at one point in your life. And like I said, I watched it happen and I felt really bad. And, to me, as an instructor, I just wanted to go over and, talk to her and say, look, I can see you're totally overwhelmed. I get that. I get that you're looking for something for home defense. Have you never shot a gun in your life? Okay. Nothing against the folks in this store, and this is where I'd probably get thrown out of the store. Say, get out of this place. Go over to Jeff and Don on Target. I'll give you the address. I'll call and tell them you're coming. And go talk to Jeff. Go talk to Don. They've got a bunch of rental guns there. If you don't live near on Target, fine. Go over to, again, there's a couple around here. I happen to know these because they're the ones that I deal with on a regular basis. But on the other side of that coin, folks, you're going to have such a different buying experience. And just, I know I've mentioned before, one of the questions I get as an instructor is, oh, what's the best gun I should get? Or what's the perfect gun for me? Or what's the, there's no perfect gun for you. I can't answer that. You've got to answer that. What running shoes or workout shoes or, do you like? I may think that I like New Balance because I can get wider widths. Someone else can say, oh, I like Nikes because of the support. And someone else can say, oh, no, I like, Adidas because of the traction or Asics because of the cushioning, whatever. Everything's going to feel different to different people, And again, if you're buying a car, You may want a great on gas little sports model that you can zip around in and go back and forth and get 45 miles to the gallon. Or I may want like a full size SUV like my Explorer because of the fact I want to be able to carry a full range bag in the back. And I'm kind of a big dude. And if I got a little 40-mile-per-gallon car, I'd have to open the sunroof to keep my head in it. You know, is one bad? Is one good? No. They're going to fit different people differently and fit their purposes differently. If you're looking for a concealed carry gun, you'll get something a little smaller. If you're looking for home defense, get something a little bit bigger. You know, if you're looking for something for home defense in some neighborhoods, get an AR-15. You know, if you've got a 10-round magazine limit, you know, Smith makes a really nice shield equalizer. You know, it's not that Smith is better than SIG or SIG is better than Smith or Glock or anything else. Or, you know, let's face it, I'm not talking about high points or anything like that, but there's so many out there these days. Try some on, take some for a test drive. And the people behind the counter, you know, you need to sort of encourage that test drive a little bit more than you encourage that gun sale. Because that guy probably made that gun sale that day. I didn't stay there to see her run all her stuff and everything. But I walked out of there thinking that, you know, like Mel said, I don't think this woman's going to get much time with it. Have you ever been to a shooting range? Have you ever shot a gun? No. Well, here's how you hold it. Let's work with this. Let's do that. There's so much to it that he could have done for her. And the thing is, if he took the time to do it, might have gotten a better result as far as the sale. Definitely would have gotten better as far as the service after the sale, because he would have been the person who taught. He would have been the one who explained. He would have been the great resource. Guess what? That could have been really, really cool. Not only for the store he worked at, but also for her on the backside. So it is what it is, folks. And I'm not trying to throw rocks at them, and I'm not trying to say that I've got all the answers. What I will say is, you know, that was just not a positive for anybody. I think the guy who brought her there, I think he had a great time learning about all the guns and having a great discussion with the guy behind the counter. I think the guy behind the counter, you know, may well have made the sale, and he may well have done a wonderful job. And that's, you know, great for him. And I have no negativity down at all towards him. But at the end of the day, the person who it was supposed to be about was standing over there like, huh? And that was kind of ugly. Okay, not a clue who it is, found it on Pinterest. Okay. Now, the fact that, you know, Minnie had, like, I don't think he had ever shot a gun. First time we went out there, I know you hadn't shot as much as you shot that day and hadn't had a chance to play with an AR or anything that day. And on the other side of that coin, she's now looking for Disney guns on Pinterest. Now, when I joke about she's the living personification of Minnie Mouse, that should kind of let you know why. On the other side of that coin, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, small ranges, or at least stores with ranges, you know, that are willing to do the customer service, willing to do the education, you should expect that as a customer. And if you go to a store and they don't want to educate you, or they want to talk over you or around you, or be, like Minnie said, potentially misogynistic, whatever, if that's, you know, the way they want to go, take your money elsewhere. Take your money elsewhere. And I'm going to say it with all the new firearms purchasers and the first-time purchasers I'm seeing going through classes, whether it's, you know, brand new people doing their CWP, or when I teach like a Guns 101 class, something like that, the requests I get, you know, it's out there, folks. It really is. You know, a lot of new people. There's a big market. And if you're the one behind the counter, take stock. How do you approach this? Do you approach it as, okay, just another sale? Because again, selling a gun to me is a hell of a lot different than selling a gun in that situation. You need to have a different approach. I don't need to be told how to grip a gun. I don't need to be told the difference between a 380 and a 9. I probably know that. Might know it better than you. But on the other side of the coin, let's see here. I'd been to the range one time before years ago. We did skeet shooting, so shotguns. And she may have shot a pistol at that point. So the first trip with me was second time ever shooting. Okay. And since that time has tried out about 8 or 9 different firearms. She even one time wanted to try my Smith & Wesson 686. I loaded up with a couple of 38 special rounds, and then I also put a couple of 357 full bore defensive loads in there. And she decided that no, the 686 hand cannon was not to be for her. But I mean, I told her this, yeah, it was my old duty weapon. That was fun trying to keep your pants up with. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, again, for me, going out shooting the 686 with full bore 357 Magnum loads, kind of a fun day at the range. For her, not as much fun, a little bit more painful. For me, the legal little Ruger LCP 380, again, nice gun, great little pocket rocket, great little backup gun. Not my first choice for my carry. I prefer the full Smith Shield. I've got a couple of others. The PSA guns, the Dagger Compact, real nice shooting gun. I'm waiting to do a range day with the Rock 5.7 millimeter. So yeah, if I'm going to buy a gun, I'm pretty familiar with what I'm looking for. I can walk in and say, what, I want one of those, but I don't want that. And what calibers do you have that in? And do you have this one with the thumb safety or an ambidextrous safety? I get that. And you're selling a gun to me at a totally different level than if you were selling a gun to that couple that was in there. I say couple, I don't think they were like a couple, but Then again, it was Western North Carolina, and so I'm sure Sleazy can talk about what goes on up there. Yeah, where men are men and sheep are scared. But again, the trip to buy your first gun should not be nerve-wracking. And if you feel like you're like totally being overtalked and it's out of control and you don't even know what you want, you just want to get the hell out of here, feel free to stop it. Say, look, let's stop this for a minute. Because I could tell this woman, reading her body language and just looking at the look on her face, was totally overloaded. She wanted out of there. She'd agree to anything to get the hell out of there at that point. Okay, let's take this the other side. Guys, I figure we have a couple of guys watching. Sleazy, I don't know if you're still here or not, but guys, you ever go shopping with the wife and she's shopping for like new curtains or new drapes or something, or trying to figure out window treatments or what color cabinets to put in the kitchen, and you're like, yeah dear, that looks fine. Yeah dear, that looks fine. Yeah dear, that looks fine. Oh, that looks wonderful, dear. You like that one? Okay, that's wonderful, dear. Yeah, okay. I'm sure it'll go fine with everything. I'm sure it'll go fine with the floor. I don't give a damn. Let me get the hell out of here, please. That's what it was. That's where she was. She was agreeing to anything. She picked up 5 guns, and I guess that's fine. Oh, that's better. Oh, well, that's fine. That's fine. She's never shot a gun in her life. How does she know? Come on. And again, I don't fault the guy behind the counter. He was doing his job. Could he have done it a lot better? Yes. Could we, again, in the firearm community, if we're the guy who's with her, can we learn from this? Yes. If you're her, and I say her because it happened to be a her, but if you're a guy and you've never shot a gun before and you're like talking to your buddy or your neighbor and saying, I know you're all into this stuff. Can you take me out and teach me something? Hey, guess what? You will find some people are better teachers than others. But it should be a growth and a learning experience. It should be a positive experience. Now, after the friend of mine who I was supposed to meet with got there, we jumped in the car, and I was sort of at half a rant, and I decided that at that point I just needed to go over to On Target, which is over across town from where I was, and we bopped over to On Target, and I walked in. Now, I have not been in On Target in probably a good 25 years plus. Um, Went in, looked around, and I was telling them it was great to see him and everything else. I said, yeah, the last time I was here, this counter was actually over against that wall, and this was over there, and that. And they're like, yeah, that was back, so and so many years ago. And yeah, we ended up moving that during like Obama's first presidency. And we were talking about all the different things and how the building had grown, and they had done some renovations, and they were always a nice young couple, and they were doing cool stuff and running a family-based business. They were very, very customer oriented, education training oriented. They treated their customers great. Always say we got treated great there. They treated their um, staff great. They were always very willing to share knowledge and teach. And I mean, taught me a hell of a lot. I'll say that. I mean, Jeff taught me a hell of a lot. And Jeff was a super nice guy, still is. And I walked over and I was like, Jeff, that's been a while. Said, yeah, yeah. And I said, do you have any clue who I am? He's like, no. I said, I bought my first gun here from you. And he said, really? Yeah. And he started looking me over, trying to figure out who I am. And yeah, there's a good amount of gray hair up here. So he figured it was bought a while ago. And so we're talking back and forth. And Dawn comes over, and that's his wife. And I was, hey, Dawn, how are you? And she's fine. I said, you don't have a clue who I am either, do you? And I was laughing about it. And she's like, oh, yeah, you look familiar, but I just can't place the name. I could tell she was trying to play it off. Nice try, Dawn. Good try. And I was like, really? Yeah. And I said, no clue. Yeah. And so we went on a little bit further. And I said, well, I used to work with, so and so. And I used to work with such and such. I started naming people that they'd know. Yeah. And one of them happened to be their neighbor who had been the one who had introduced me to them 30 years ago. And, he's since passed on. He was a retired firearms instructor at Buncombe County. And, he was a real nice guy. And we all got along, and I learned a lot there. And, we were always treated really well. And, in our discussion, it kind of got funny because, I told them how much, that their approach to the way they treat customers and how much I had learned and remembered from the way they treated me and taught me when I didn't know what the hell I was talking about with this stuff 30 years ago. And, this is why these small family mom and pop or whatever neighborhood ranges exist. And they can do so much more. They may not have the big stock and the big fancy name, and they may not design all their own guns and do a bunch of their own stuff. But you know what? The customer service and the quality of people behind the counter, like I said, if I go to the gun shop, I can pretty much guarantee that none of the folks I'm dealing with were hawking leggings there or selling weight plates or resistance bands last month. I can pretty much guarantee that they're gun folks, And I think the guy behind the counter, he was a gun guy. He definitely was. But they didn't have a range. They didn't have any way for anyone to test drive or try anything. It was, hey, feel it, hold it, and go buy it. That's all they had. Definitely a learning experience. Beyond that, that's pretty much all I've got tonight. In light of the YouTube algorithmic drama or whatever, we're definitely going to be doing a few more Rumble private streams or Rumble exclusive streams. I'm probably going to be doing something over the weekend. I may do a Quora stream over the weekend. Those were kind of fun. Got a few laughs out of that. It's kind of fun to do also. Nice ranting and stupidity. Beyond that, we did have the mass shooting out in Iowa today. I am watching the news reports on that. That's going to be an incident report that's going to come up. Not sure when it's going to be. I'm trying to, again, as I always say, I'm not going to be first. I'm going to try to be thorough. So we're going to work on that. I've got a poll out on the Twitter page. If you're not familiar with the Twitter page I run for the channel, talking about gun buybacks a little bit and some of the stuff we're dealing with and looking at with gun buybacks. Been doing a deep dive into that because there's some good stuff, some bad stuff, and definitely some knowledge base for gun buybacks and some stuff we need to talk about a little bit. Not so much because I think anyone in this group wants to go do a gun buyback. I don't think so. But on the other side of that coin, from a public policy standpoint, do they work? Are they a good idea? Are they a bad idea? And when I say are they a bad idea, not necessarily that we are doing anything negative with them, but when you look at some of the amounts of money that are thrown into these events and what it costs to run some of these gun buyback events, are they effective? Are they not? We're going to get into that later on this month. I've lined up a couple of really cool guests for this month also. A couple of one person's a firearm influencer online. She's going to be coming on in a couple of weeks. Next week, I've got another fellow instructor coming on. He's a USCCI instructor, I believe, as well. And we're going to talk about that a bit. Definitely got some fun coming up. I've got to throw out there big thanks for today for the sponsorship of the show. Our sponsorship today is none other than Valor Medical Services. Now, Valor Medical Services, if you're not aware, provides an extensive library of online EMS continuing education courses. They've got courses that are either individual, you can get a package deal, like a 1-year subscription with access to 40 or 50 different courses, or you can just get, a la carte piecemeal if you need to meet certain individual things. Valor's online academy not only, again, is fully CAPCI accredited nationwide for your National Registry research, but also offers direct reporting to CAPCI as well as the National Registry, which simplifies your data entry when it comes time to actually process everything and put it in. You can actually do direct import from CAPCI on all your stuff. Beyond that, I also want to give a big thanks to our dear friend who's been in the chat tonight, Miss Minnie Mouse. She's been over there in the chat, keeping us company, keeping us sane. And she runs Southern Sisters Crafty Creations. They do a lot of really cool tumblers and work like that for us. And we appreciate all of her beautiful creations that she does. She's got a bunch of those. She does really cool tumblers for us. And we really love her work there. And yes, I actually knew enough to call them tumblers, so I didn't get yelled at. Isn't that right, Minnie Mouse? Yeah, I hear you. All righty, well, that's all I've got, folks. If there's something we can do, please reach out to us. And again, if you need, Con Ed hours, check out Valor Academy, their online site. They definitely, 'tis the season to get our registry done by 3/31. And again, they do have direct reporting to National Registry for digital classes. So that'll work out. And again, extensive online library. That's all I've got for today, folks. I want to thank y'all for coming out. Thank y'all for coming to watch. I will see you probably over the weekend, possibly, maybe tomorrow night, but definitely, if not tomorrow, Saturday, we're going to do a Quora live stream. Have a few Rumble rants in there. It's going to be a Rumble exclusive, probably. And it may just happen to involve an adult beverage or two. So, hey, always fun. Till then, folks, be smart, be safe, take care of yourself. Bye.